My name is Ryan Keller, and I used to live in this old rented house in Duluth, Minnesota. It was one of those houses with history, you know, built back in the 1940s, and it showed its age in every creak of the floorboards and every draft that snuck through the window frames. But the real character of the house, the part that always stuck with me, was the basement. From the day I moved in, that basement had a smell. It was a heavy, persistent mix of damp earth and something metallic, like old rust or blood. It clung to the air down there, a constant reminder that you were underground. My landlord, a jittery guy who never seemed to look you in the eye for more than a second, gave me a weird warning when he handed over the keys. He just said, "Don't store anything valuable down there." He didn't elaborate, didn't explain why. He just shifted his gaze to a spot on the wall behind me and changed the subject. I brushed it off. I figured he was just worried about the dampness ruining my stuff. I couldn't have been more wrong. For a few months, everything was normal, or as normal as it gets in a house that groans like an old man. The basement was just a place I avoided. I did laundry down there, sure, but I was always quick about it, never lingering. There was an oppressive weight to the air, a feeling of being watched that I couldn't shake. I'd chalk it up to an overactive imagination, a byproduct of living alone in a creaky old house. Then came the storm. It was late, well past midnight, and the wind was howling, throwing rain against the windows like handfuls of gravel. The kind of storm that makes you feel small and isolated. And then, inevitably, the lights flickered once, twice, and died. Total darkness. The silence that followed was somehow louder than the storm itself. The breaker box was in the basement. Of course it was. With a deep breath, I opened the door to the basement stairs and aimed the flashlight beam into the darkness below. The moment my feet touched the concrete floor, I knew something was different. The usual scent of damp and metal was there, but it was sharper, more intense, and the silence, it was profound. The storm raging outside was completely gone. It was like sound itself was afraid to enter this space. The air felt thick, heavy, swallowing every noise. Even my own breathing seemed muffled. It was a dead quiet that felt unnatural, wrong. My flashlight beam cut a nervous path through the gloom, bouncing off dusty shelves and the hulking shape of the old furnace. My hand was shaking a little as I flipped the main switch. There was a loud clank, and just like that, the single bare bulb hanging from the ceiling flickered to life, casting long, distorted shadows across the room. The power was back on. Relief washed over me, but it was short-lived because in that first moment of light, I heard it. Click. It was the unmistakable sound of a deadbolt turning. I spun around, my heart suddenly hammering against my ribs. The basement door, the one I had left wide open, was now closed, and as I stared, my blood running cold, I watched the small metal knob of the lock twist slowly, deliberately, all by itself. It locked from the inside. From my side, my mind refused to process what I was seeing. It had to be a trick of the light, the old house settling. But the finality of that click echoed in the crushing silence. It was a low, dry whisper, like dead leaves scraping across pavement. You weren't supposed to come down alone. The single light bulb above me flickered violently, and the shadows on the walls warped and stretched, bending in ways that defied physics. They writhed like living things, twisting into grotesque shapes. A cold spot formed on the back of my neck, a chilling presence that felt ancient and incredibly patient. I stopped pulling on the handle and threw my entire body against the door. I slammed my shoulder into the wood again and again, fueled by a terror so profound it was almost paralyzing. On the third impact, there was a sharp crack of splintering wood. The lock, the one that had been so solid just moments before, snapped. The door flew open and I stumbled out into the hallway, not daring to look back. I didn't stop for shoes, for my wallet, for anything. I just ran. Out the front door, into the lashing rain, barefoot on the cold, wet pavement. I didn't stop running until I reached my car, fumbling with the keys, my hands shaking so badly I could barely get the door open. I peeled out of the driveway and just drove, with no destination in mind, just needing to put as much distance as possible between me and that house. The next morning, after hours spent parked at a 24-hour diner trying to calm my racing heart, I called the police. I felt like an idiot trying to explain what happened, but I had to. 2 officers met me back at the house. They were professional, but I could see the skepticism in their eyes. He looked at me, his expression unreadable, and said something that I will never forget. "You know," he said, "the funny thing about this lock, it can only be turned from the inside, from inside the basement." His partner just nodded slowly. They knew, they'd seen things in this town. They didn't say another word, just wished me luck and left. I didn't need any more convincing. I broke my lease that same day. I packed what little I could grab in an hour and left Duluth without looking back. I never spoke to the landlord again. I found out later that a new tenant moved in not long after I left. A young college student, I think. And the neighbors started talking. They say that now, most nights, right around 1:40 a.m., the exact time the power went out for me, they hear it. A faint but frantic sound coming from that old house.